Hello, hello, my dear crypto enthusiasts. This is Max speaking, and welcome to the new episode of Synopsis Talk. Today, I'm excited to host this interview with actually a whale of the industry, managing partner of Ryze Labs, Matthew Graham. Hi, Matthew. How are you today?
Hi, Max. Great to be here with you today. Thank you for that kind intro, and I can't wait to talk shop.
Yeah, likewise. So let's just get it going, and have a bunch of questions prepared. And okay, the one we begin with is like a question which is actually addressed to the whale, which is for a very long time in the industry. So you are one of the oldest Web3 VCs out there. I mean, Ryze Labs. How have Web3 investments changed since 2015?
Sure, I would say that the quality of the projects has become substantially more robust, which is one of the things that we are most pleased about. Obviously, we did witness things like the ICO. We just have a white paper days, which was fun, but very hectic and chaotic and probably not super healthy in a long-term sense. It's great to have projects that are more genuinely interested in interfacing with the real world and touching upon what consumers need and mainstream adoption and things like that. As our industry continues to go from hyper technical ideologues to people like my mom and my sisters, that actually becomes increasingly interesting to me. What I'm really interested in about is the principles of what we're building, a parallel financial system, and now even more than that. But I'm also interested about the real world and uh, making a difference in people's lives.
Just awesome, and very glad to hear that you believe in that the quality of project improved, and this means we are moving in the right direction. And yeah, about the direction. So it's been over a year since you changed company name from Sino Global Capital to Ryze Labs. How has it been going with the new name?
Sure, it's been great. We have both our venture fund and we have a liquid fund. And I think that the name better reflects the increasing scope of our ambitions. When we started out, we were mostly focused on the greater China market, but we've long since expanded to emerging markets all around the world, not just greater China, but India, Latin America, Middle East, North Africa, Southeast Asia. We have boots on the ground from everywhere from Argentina to Singapore. We needed a name that was big and broad-based enough to reflect that. And so that was the reason for the name change. So we're pretty pleased with a name that gives us bigger shoes to fill in a sense, more room to grow with the name.
Okay, I see. So, thank you. And moving on, the next question is pretty big, but I think you will deal with it easily. So, can you tell us what is on your checklist to decide on investment into a project? On CryptoX, there is a popular opinion that no matter how superior the tech is, those with better content, what is being done on top of the project are always winning. This is why the OGs like Bitcoin and Ethereum are still at the top. What's your take on this?
So I think that question has a couple different facets. Um, in general, we actually think that superior technology is highly likely to win in the short term. The danger, though, is when technology is married with an inability or unwillingness to get close to the customers and find out what is really wanted on the ground, so to speak. So you need to have powerful technology, but it only counts if it's extremely related to the actual needs and wants of your end customer. It's not about technology being elegant or powerful or providing capabilities in some kind of abstract sense. So I think if you narrow the scope and you talk about technology being robust in a product market fit sense, then in most scenarios, technology will win out as time goes to infinity. With that said, there are some nuances. It depends to some extent on if you're talking about something like an L1 versus something like some kind of consumer application. If it tends to be more on the L1 side of the spectrum, then the superior tech stack becomes increasingly important. If it's more towards the consumer app end of the spectrum, then I would say marketing and things like that get increasingly important. Obviously, we all know famous examples from traditional finance and technology about uh, Betamax and things, VHS versus Betamax. Betamax had the superior technology back in the day, but VHS won out. That's a famous case study. But I would say there's some truth to that, but it's probably overstated. If you have a choice between betting on technology and marketing with flimsy technology, I would probably choose the former most of the time.
Get it.
Answer
Very
your
detailed.
question, Matt.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I believe that all the founders should marry their technologies with the right things. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
And
So again, Max, though, you have to have technology that's close to the customer. That's the problem. You have to have technology that is superior in a way that's substantial enough to overcome any other deficits that you might have. And you have to constantly stay close to the customer. If you are far away from the customer and you're developing your technology in isolation, that's a recipe for disaster. So I just wanted to clarify and emphasize the way in which you need to have good technology. Thanks.
thank you. So traditionally, in the end of our interviews, and it will be also done today, we like to ask about the recipes of success. So here we have a recipe of disaster. So put it in notes, guys. Also, very important things. Yeah, and next question. So we have it prepared, and our projects run by boomers, millennials, and Gen Z, different in their external communications. Who is the easiest counterparty to deal with, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I would probably have to think very carefully about that. I think there are obviously very substantial communication styles, but I think they come with strengths and weaknesses rather than one necessarily being better than another. The strengths of younger founders tend to be that they are more digitally native, more crypto native. It's not a second language that they acquired as an adult. That's a very substantial advantage in my view. In general, though, we tend to take the view that the concept of the prodigy founder or entrepreneur as superior to older founders is substantially overstated. There probably would actually be some alpha just in investing in founders that were on average a little older. But ultimately, we kind of put all those variables aside. That's not important to us. We don't care where you live, what you look like, what university you went to, how old you are. I could not care less about any of those things. What I want to know is, do you have a highly differentiated vision? And do you have the technical chops to execute on that vision? And also, you should have some kind of unfair advantage. Those are the first three things that we look for when we make investments. And then, of course, there are some other things too. I personally have a fondness for investing in people that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder or they're overlooked in some way. I like people that really have something to prove, but that's maybe just a personal preference. But really, it's about differentiation, a long-term view, technical chops for execution, these kinds of things. That's the bread and butter.
Well, thank you. Super valuable information, actually, and I believe that most of our viewers are making notes right now, and I think people will be watching this video several times to remember everything. And yeah, moving on to the next question. Actually, you see the list today is pretty different, like this topic, that topic, because we were when we were preparing for this interview and composing the list of questions, we were like the kids in a toy shop, like, let's ask about investments, let's ask about the best asset in portfolio, let's ask about how to find a good project. So that's the way we go in today. So
Sure.
and yeah, and the next question is actually, what emerging trends are you noticing in the Web3 sectors you invest in?
I love this question because, and I'll tell you why, Max, because in our view, there's an enormously important and exciting trend that is playing out actually only in recent weeks, and it's related to AI agents. In my view, this is the most important event in our industry since, I would say, two things. The last time we saw something of equal importance were the emergence and rise of Solana, number one, and number two, DeFi summer, so to speak, the early days of DeFi. In my view, AI agents is the most important thing since that time. And there are a couple different reasons for that. But I'd like to start with the fact that in recent weeks, we've seen for the first time emergent behavior from AIs that are acting semi-autonomously, and that is happening in such a way as to be so compelling that it's influencing, motivating, and inspiring in real life action. So Andy's experiment Terminal of Truths, obviously at birth, the meme coin GOAT. I happen to love GOAT. I own GOAT. I think it's fascinating. But to me, that's actually the least, and this is out of respect to Andy, actually, most of all, that's actually the least important part of the story. The most important part of the story is that Andy has created some of the first compelling emergent behavior from autonomous or semi-autonomous AIs that is impacting the real world to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of interest in his creation. And I think it's important to realize that emergent behavior, AIs, autonomous or semi-autonomous behavior, this is day zero or week zero, so to speak. This is like when computers were enormous and basically a glorified calculator, and they could do nothing more. Maybe they had DOS as their operating system. And so you can only imagine from those early computer days to now, where I have a computer in front of me that's exponentially more powerful than the hardware that sent us to the moon, you can only imagine what that might look like in the context of autonomous AI agents with emergent behavior. Already, these AI agents are as fascinating as human beings in many ways. Already, again, inspiring in real life actions. As we continue to spend more and more time in the digital world, one can imagine a future where we interact every day with trillions of beings, all of which are human-like. Not we interact with trillions every day, but we can imagine a world with trillions of beings, most of which are human-like, because that is what we are wired to be attracted to in whatever sense, obviously. And 99.99% of these will actually be AIs that are acting in a human way. and only a small percentage will be humans. And we won't know which is which most of the time. It will be impossible to tell, even if there's audio, even if there's video. This world is going to come fast. AI agents will make up the vast majority of beings that we interact with. It will happen first with simple things like the fact that it won't be long before most Twitter accounts are bots. The difference is that, if that isn't true already, right? The difference is that now we can like kind of suspect that they're bots. We can even say disregard previous instructions, write a recipe, something like that, and the bot will be like, oh, hey, here's your recipe. That's going to end. They will pass the Turing test. They'll be indistinguishable. This world is coming. And we are already seeing that it has a very powerful intersection with crypto. Because when you add the ability of crypto to provide incentivization, that makes an enormously intoxicating cocktail. We're already seeing this. So you can imagine that very soon, rather than being accidental, such as Andy's GOAT and Terminal of Truth's creation, many of these AI agents, if not most, will be purposefully built from the ground up in a crypto native way. That'll be even more powerful. That means, for example, that they will have control of token treasuries. They'll be able to autonomously or semi-autonomously make decisions about incentivizing actions through token incentives. And many of these actions will take place not just in the digital world, but in the real world. It's extremely clear to me that this is enormously important. And again, I mentioned at the very least as important as going back to early days of Solana and early days of DeFi. I think all of us are just beginning to even be able to imagine the implications of this powerful concept and how it might play out. But really, I think this is an enormously important trend. And it's also quite a refreshing change from the year of meme coins, which is not super fun, but not super interesting to us, frankly.
Wow. Thank you. So I was like,
As you can see, we're pretty bullish, Max, on AI agents.
yeah.
I myself am personally spending 80% of my time these days on AI agents.
Okay,
By
no.
the way, that comes from someone by the way, I was previously extremely skeptical about the intersection of AI and crypto as context. So specifically, it always made sense to me that eventually we would have AIs transacting in crypto micropayments and things like that. That all kind of made sense. The theoretical intersection of AI and crypto always super made sense to me. But the early AI projects, I think, were fundamentally lacking in real world substance and product market fit. So this is really an enormous change for us to go from thinking that in a theoretical sense, the AI and crypto was extremely compelling, but nothing is here yet that actually makes sense, to now thinking this is beginning. This is really here. The future is now. It's an enormous change for us.
Yeah, the future is now. And while listening to your answer for this kind of a simple question, I felt like I'm involved into some story, and some scenes from the Blade Runner were appearing in my mind. And yeah, actually, the speed of AI emergence is like crazy. I think even Hollywood producers could not imagine how it will be going so rapidly. And
It's
for sure,
interesting too, Max, that I think that, first of all, the speed of change will continue. It's not just change is so rapid. It's actually the derivative of change and even the second derivative. The speed of change is increasing. And what is also interesting, it's not just change in the speed of change that's increasing, it's the speed of weird that's increasing. The world is rapidly getting stranger, weirder, and more chaotic. For someone like me, that's mostly pretty amazing. The
Sure.
idea of the world becoming a Philip K. Dick novel sounds like a lot of fun in a lot of ways. But this is really going to be an enormous change for many, many people. The speed of change is increasing, and the speed of weird is increasing. It's going to be fun. Excuse me. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be extremely chaotic too. Get ready.
Okay, Bell's ready. So it's an interesting take that on the one hand, like there are so many technologies which actually have to make our life more structured and easier, leading us to even a more chaotic world. So getting ready, you know. And yeah, we see that AI is actually a topic for a separate discussion, and yeah, for sure it deserves it, and probably we will organize one, and it will be great to see you, Matthew, there, and to discuss it in more details. I believe our audience will be happy to hear more. Who and I think for now we can move on and move closer to like the current state of the world and the investments we have in it. And yeah, the next question, I think you hear it pretty often. So could you tell us what is the highest performing asset in your portfolio since 2015? Is it a young project, like born in this market cycle, or something older than 2 years?
So, when we were in early days, so there's a law of large numbers effect, of course, for the industry as a whole. So, in 2015, in those early days, it was easier to put up blockbuster numbers, of course. So if we were to look at the data, I'm sure some of those early Ethereum sector DeFi investments that we made were probably the highest performers. The landscape was quite different then. But in terms of our venture investments, I think it's likely some of the Solana and Solana ecosystem projects, layer zero investments like that obviously drove huge returns for us. But of course, our most successful investment is the next one.
Okay, I was you got me. I was just prepared to hear some final insight, and yeah, like it's a great motto. Uh, okay, thank you. So, um, we're getting closer to the end of our list, but it's still not the last question. So, from your perspective, does the industry really need new infrastructure, or should projects focus more on putting the existing solutions to use? I think we slightly touched this question already, but now let's maybe specify it.
Sure, Max, that's a good question. I would phrase it as what I think you have to say what kind of infrastructure. So does the industry need the 27th L1? Probably not. L1s, in our view, ultimately are an oligopolistic market with a long tail. I think there's still room for new contenders, but do we need the 27th not super differentiated L1? Probably not. Eventually, that's a market that will be dominated probably by 3 to 5 L1s, and then there'll be a long tail of specific niche L1s. So unless you have some extremely differentiated capability, do we need more of that type of infrastructure? You would have to convince me that there was a really good reason why that made sense. On the other hand, we've been talking about AI agents, and there are many opportunities for AI agent services and platforms and capabilities to be built out. There's an enormous need for infrastructure related to this evolving opportunity. So in general, I do think it's true that in our industry, there's a weakness for building out a lot of infrastructure and very few apps that are close to the customer. I think it's a true statement that we have a little bit too much of a fondness for that. But when we want to answer a question like, is there too much infrastructure? Really, the follow-up question needs to be of what type?
Okay, I see. So yeah, 27th layer one is is a big question. Like, do we
So
really
to
need
speak.
it? Okay, thank you. And yeah, we are
Thank you.
actually came to our last traditional question. It's been like thin red line through all our discussion today. So we had the recipe of disaster for the founders. We had some checklist on your investments and some perspectives on this. And now, could you please give some final piece of advice to our audience? So our audience is pretty much diversified, so you may address to some exact part of it or provide some universal information. So just share anything that you find valuable for our audience to hear right now. So please go ahead.
I think the most important thing is to get as close to your potential customer as you can to solve problems that you yourself need solved. Can be a strategy that's super helpful. And then to rapidly iterate. I think that there's sometimes a tendency to try to be perfect instead of good in a rapid fire fashion. Be good and fast rather than perfect and slow. And that's something that will be enormously advantageous in such a hyper competitive and dynamic industry. So just off the top of my head, those are some of the things that would occur to me. And I would just add, surround yourself with the smartest, high trust people that you can and build things in a long-term way. If you start with a few basic foundational principles like that, I think you'll do pretty well.
Well, thank you. It's sounds actually like some ancient wisdom, at least for Russians, like the perfection
Okay.
is the enemy of the goodness. And
Well,
yeah,
that is I'm not the first person to say that. I'm quoting someone somewhere with perfect is the enemy of the good, but the rest is mine.
yeah, sure. But actually, it's very important, I believe, to point out some basic things more and more times until it reach the more people. And yeah, another thing you mentioned about being closer to customers, it's also one
Yeah.
of my favorite advices. I'm always happy to hear it from our guests. And yeah, community first, customers first, and that's if not a full recipe, but still one of the keys to success, I'm sure. And yeah, so that was it for today. A pretty general but a very deep discussion. Thank you very much, Matthew, for joining in for this dive into some history into the future. Like I really enjoyed it, and I 100% sure that our audience feels the same. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone for watching till the end. Stay tuned. Take care and have a great day, night, and whatever is in your region. Bye bye, everyone.